Hello, this PowerPoint is for the training I did on Monday for CPD on how to make Tier 2 and Tier 3 vocabulary very explicit in your lessons. As a starter, can you name as many Tier 2 or Tier 3 words that you can see if you was to look at this picture? Make a note of them on a post-it, as we'll come back to that post-it at the end of the training session. So what is the difference in the three tiers of languages? So tier 1 is basic language that we use in everyday speaking as we speak at home or with non-scientists or non-professionals. Tier 2 is a high frequency academic words that are subject specialist and used around the areas. And tier 3 becomes more specific and more relevant to the field of study. So for example, if I was to talk about tier 2, I could be talking about electricity, and then if I go to tier 3, I can then break it down to charge, circuit, current, voltage, and so on. So you dig deeper into it. Now, as scientists, we tend to do a lot of tier 3 language. We use that a lot in a classroom because it's specific to our subjects we teach. But like I said, it's the link between the 2 and the 3 that we need to deliver to students. As long as they're using the language, we don't have to make it that explicit that it's tier 2 or 3. For students, it's the relevant language and the keywords they need to know. This link here gives you the exhausting list of all the tier 2 or 3 vocabulary you could find. Obviously, this is not the only list. There are so many lists out there. This is quite a long, exhausting list, but as I said, there are so many more resources that you can find, and you may want to look into this and cherry pick the words that you may want to implement into your practice or use with your classes, depending on the class you have in front of you. You might want to differentiate between them. You might want to give them the keywords and they can go look for the meanings. It depends how you like to use this resource. This activity is to support the vocabulary low to mid ability students. Here you would give them a table. You might want to give them as many words as you like. You might want to give them some meanings, as I have done. And the idea is to get them to build their own vocabulary and add to the keywords for the day. It could be a starter or a plenary exercise. You can extend it by get them to understand the meaning of the words and then go around the class and find out what other people in the class have written so they can compare and contrast. For activity 2, they need to understand the keywords. Now these are tier 2, tier 3 keywords because they are very subject specialist, as you can see. So they need to then understand in the context itself what the meaning of these words are. Even write down definitions if they like to, and that will deepen the vocabulary and the meaning of the words for them. Developing tier 2 and 3, and this is an example from physics, and here all I've done is given them a formula: force is equal to mass times acceleration, F equals m times a, and a picture of a boat that is floating with arrows. And what I'll do here is just give them that formula with that picture and ask them to build a vocabulary bank. They will come up with a list of keywords. Once they got that, they then need to use some keywords to write a paragraph and describe exactly what F equals to m times a, and that picture is trying to explain here. In this slide, you'll see, following doing this activity, the students in the classroom, there were 3 types of students who had answered these questions. Some of the students have come up with these words on the left-hand side, some in the middle, which are more basic, and some on the right-hand side. Once they got the meaning of these words, they need to then collate them. They can put them in post-it notes, they can write them on a table, they can write them in a book, and what they need to do is then construct sentences and then write into a paragraph giving a description of what they see. If it's a low ability set, then you can give them the sentence starters with these words, and then they can extend their learning by applying the new vocabulary they have learned. This activity is another example of how you can use tier 2 or 3 words in your classroom. Here I'm expecting students to correct the SPaG as well as the science, and then highlight tier 2 and 3 words which they will understand as subject specialist words. So what we need to do is look at these and then highlight where do you think the SPaG needs to be done, which is spelling, punctuation, grammar, and where is the incorrect science. You'll see the students will come back with something like this. They'll make the difference in the spelling mistakes and come back. And then again, you can then ask them to change the words if you like to high ability words. For example, question 3, the more concentrated solution, the more solvent particles there are in a given volume. You might be able to say if you increase the concentration, the number of particles increase. So you can use alternative words that then take the tier 2 into tier 3 vocabulary. This is a recall and retrieve vocabulary exercise where students will recap and recall knowledge. What they're doing here is an example for chemistry. They are writing down and discussing with their partner all the rates of reaction modules that affect the rate of reaction. So they list all the factors. They will then go and extend how these factors will affect the rate of reaction using scientific terminology. And here you really want them to be more specific using tier 3 language. So for example, if they say the rate of reaction increases as the temperature increases or pressure increases, then you want them to start reasoning why. They can talk about collision theory, they can talk about Le Chatelier's principle, they can talk about reversible reaction. So you really need to take them to extend the knowledge. Once they've done that, you can then make a list on the board of all the keywords and all the ideas they can bring, and then model the answer, give them the answer that you're looking for. And then to extend it further, you want to take the knowledge of rates to another application. In this case, I've used Haber Process. I can then ask them, how does all the factors that they have listed for rates of reaction affect the yield of making Haber Process? What is the catalyst? How will you speed up the Haber Process? How will you use the compromising conditions? How can the balance equation? You can really take it to the next level, but you can see how the kids this time around are coming up with all the words and the keywords for the vocabulary. You haven't given them those. They are retrieving them from their past knowledge and then they're applying it to the new topic. After a quick whiz through all those activities which you would have done in the session, then you would have come back to the slide that you started off as your starter, and hopefully that list that you started off would have extended with new tier 2 and 3 vocabulary. So rather than initially just having the global warming or fire or sunshine or floods, you should have now gone into the next level of language to say what had caused these, or extend them to more specific words, which will then become tier 3. Thank you for listening.